Harley-Davidson isn't dying, it's drifting. The bikes still look strong, but loyalty's leaking through the cracks. If you've ever parked a Harley beside a Japanese tourer and wondered where the value went, this story's for you. I'll show proof, model years, prices, recalls, because freedom deserves facts, not slogans. Because behind every chrome smile is a trap built to keep you buying. Stay till the end, because the final truth reveals the decision that almost ended Harley for good. Number 21, the Sportster trap. They called it the People's Harley, but behind that shiny chrome smile hides the brand's oldest trick. Thousands of riders have learned it the hard way, and most never saw it coming until it was too late. Dealerships still whisper about the Sportster as the gateway legend, but that gate swings only one direction, toward upgrades, regrets, and empty wallets. What if the dream you rode off with was actually designed to make you trade up? That's not opinion, that's strategy. If you've ever looked at an 883 or a 1200 and thought, "That's my forever bike," this truth will hit home. Because the Sportster's beauty isn't built to last, it's built to hook you. Lightweight enough to tease freedom, powerful enough to convince you you've made it, yet limited just enough to leave you craving the next tier. It's the entry ticket to Harley culture that cashes in on your loyalty. What started as a promise of entry-level freedom quickly turned into a cycle of upselling and regret. But even that trap had layers. Because beneath the Sportster's stripped-down glory lived another illusion, one disguised as the cheapest way to ride American steel. Number 20, the 883 illusion. Here's a brutal truth that Harley-Davidson will never print in their brochures. The 883 isn't freedom, it's the illusion of it. For decades, it's been the bait on the hook, the chrome-covered dream that pulls riders into the Harley world with a smile that hides a sting. Thousands of new owners roll out of showrooms every year thinking they've scored the deal of a lifetime. But within months, that same bike is sitting in classifieds, traded, flipped, or collecting dust in a garage. The trap? It looks like a lifelong companion, but it's built to outgrow you. Fast. If you've ever looked at your own Harley and thought, maybe I just need better pipes, new bars, a remap, and she'll feel right, you've already stepped into the illusion. The 883 seduces with affordability but quietly punishes your patience and your wallet. Every upgrade feels like progress until you realize the company designed it that way, so you'll crave the next model, the next loan, the next fix of horsepower. The 883 was marketed as simple and pure. But purity doesn't sell parts. And that's when Harley found its most profitable trick, making you believe your bike wasn't complete until you paid to fix what shouldn't have been broken. If you've made it this far, you're clearly part of the real Harley family. Smash that like button, drop a comment below, and tell me which truth hit hardest. Number 19, the Harley tax. They don't tell you this when you sign the papers, but every Harley-Davidson owner pays a secret tax. Not to the government, not to the dealer, but to the machine itself. It's called the Harley tax, and it hits harder than any down payment ever could. Riders call it the Stage 1 syndrome, and it's the moment you realize your brand new motorcycle isn't truly awake until you spend even more money setting it free. Thousands of riders every single year fall into this trap, thinking their bike just needs a little tuning, a few pipes, a better breath of air, and then suddenly they're thousands of dollars deep into chasing the performance Harley deliberately hid. If your throttle has ever felt muted, if your rumble sounds too polite, or if your ride feels caged, you've already met this tax collector. Harley builds their bikes restrained, restricted, and begging for the upgrade kit that empties your wallet. And once you start, it never stops, because every stage promises power, but what it really delivers is dependency. That illusion of improvement didn't just drain wallets, it destroyed resale value. Thousands of riders poured fortunes into upgrades that made their bikes harder to sell. And when the truth hit the used market, Harley's reputation began to rust from the inside out. Number 18, the resale reality. Here's a truth that Harley-Davidson will never whisper in your ear. The resale myth is just that, a myth. Riders brag that their Harleys hold value forever, but the cold market doesn't care about loyalty, pride, or chrome. Every month, thousands of listings flood online markets, road glides, Softails, and Sportsters. all priced by owners clinging to nostalgia, not numbers. And when reality hits, it hits hard. That investment in freedom suddenly becomes a negotiation in heartbreak, because no matter how spotless your machine is, the second you roll it off that showroom floor, it starts losing dollars faster than it gains miles. If you've ever stared at your bike thinking it's your retirement plan, this truth will sting. The market only rewards low miles, rare models, and restraint, not passion or personality. All those custom pipes, chrome accessories, and upgrades you poured your soul into. They don't raise the value, they bury it. The buyer doesn't see your journey, they see your receipts. As prices fell and pride cracked, Harley doubled down on heritage. Heavier is better, they said. Tradition means toughness. But what happens when nostalgia itself becomes a burden? One so heavy it slows the company, the riders, and the culture itself? Real riders know it's not just the bike, it's the gear that keeps you rolling. Check the links in the description for the helmets and accessories I recommend. Stay protected, and let's keep going. Number 17, the weight of tradition. Every legend carries a burden, and Harley-Davidson's might be the heaviest of all. For over 120 years, the company has built its reputation on muscle, steel, and pride. But that same heritage weighs down every rider who swings a leg over one of these machines. What once symbolized freedom has quietly become a physical test of endurance. 800 pounds of chrome, nostalgia, and history, all demanding strength, balance, and respect that not every rider can sustain forever. If you've ever fought your Harley at a stoplight, felt your back strain in a parking lot, or feared that slow-motion tip-over in gravel, you've already met the true cost of tradition. These bikes aren't just heavy on the scale, they're heavy on the soul. Each pound reminds you that Harley doesn't chase trends. It clings to identity, even when the world moves toward lighter, faster, smarter. And while that loyalty earns respect, it also limits evolution, because heritage is sacred until it starts holding you back. That weight wasn't just physical, it rattled through every mile. Riders called it character until the shaking turned brutal. And while Harley worshipped the rumble, it ignored the cost riders paid in wrists, backs, and bolts. The shake became the price of pride. Number 16, the vibration tax. No one tells you about this tax when you buy a Harley-Davidson. But every mile, your body pays it in silence. Riders call it the vibration tax, and it's the unspoken price of that legendary rumble. The same heartbeat that makes a Harley feel alive slowly starts to wear you down. Your hands go numb, your shoulders tense, and your spine becomes the shock absorber the factory forgot. It doesn't hit you all at once. It creeps in mile by mile until the ride that once felt like freedom starts to feel like fatigue. If you've ever pulled off the highway shaking your hands, if your mirrors blur more than your memories, you already know this truth. Harley's identity lives in that vibration, the deep mechanical pulse that no other brand dares to imitate. But that signature feel is also its curse. The stronger it vibrates, the more you pay in pain, chiropractors, and endurance. Harley tried to tame it, but complete silence would mean losing its soul. For solo riders, it was bearable, but bring someone with you, and the ride turned punishing. Comfort became compromise, and Harley's freedom machine forgot half its audience. Because behind every legendary rider was a passenger who quietly stopped asking to come along. Number 15, the passenger problem. Every love story between a rider and their Harley-Davidson changes the moment someone climbs onto the back seat. What should be a romantic highway escape often turns into a painful reality check known across the biker world as the passenger problem. It's not a rumor, it's the moment freedom meets discomfort, and comfort loses every time. Behind every smiling couple in dealership ads are two sore backs, one tense throttle hand, and a silent agreement to never again. Harley may sell the dream of two-up adventure, but the truth is far less graceful once the miles start adding up. If you've ever looked in your mirror and seen your passenger shifting, frowning, or tapping your shoulder at the 50-mile mark, you already know this truth. Thin pillion seats, stiff suspensions, and endless vibration make your partner question the same lifestyle you swear by. The real heartbreak? The fix costs hundreds, sometimes thousands, in aftermarket upgrades just to make that shared ride bearable. To fix comfort, Harley created the touring lineup, luxury on two wheels. But luxury has a dark side, maintenance. The bigger the bike, the deeper the bills. Every long ride came with a reminder that Harley's smoothest road always led back to the service bay. Number 14. The touring maintenance trap. They call it the dream machine. The Harley-Davidson Road Glide, Street Glide, Electra Glide, those massive touring bikes built to swallow highways and make you king of the road. But here's the secret no one at the dealership will mention. Every mile of freedom comes with a bill, and this is where most riders get caught. It's the touring maintenance trap, a slow bleed that doesn't just hit your wallet, it hijacks your schedule and your patience. These machines aren't just heavy in steel, they're heavy in upkeep, and the bigger the model, the bigger the cost. If you've ever thought owning a touring Harley means effortless adventure, this truth hits home. Tires wear out faster than memories, brake pads vanish under the weight, and every oil change feels like a rent payment. Those big engines demand perfect timing, constant fluids, and expensive hands to keep them alive. Freedom isn't free, not when your yearly maintenance costs more than a used bike. And when those touring giants roared to life, a new beast was born, the twin-cam engine. It promised power but delivered pain, running hot enough to cook riders alive. The comfort Harley sold began to melt away, literally, at every stoplight. Number 13. The twin-cam heatwave. It was supposed to be Harley-Davidson's next evolution, a bold step forward that would silence critics and redefine performance for a new generation. But instead, it ignited one of the hottest scandals in Harley history, literally. When the twin-cam engine roared onto the scene in 1999, riders expected salvation. What they got instead was a furnace between their legs and a mechanical nightmare hiding beneath the chrome. The name promised power, but the heat was unbearable. Riders in traffic felt like their thighs were cooking, and long rides turned into endurance tests against the engine itself. If you've ever owned a twin-cam Harley and wondered why your oil temp spiked or why your patience melted at every red light, this one's for you. That innovation came with a hidden flaw: fragile cam chain tensioners that wore down faster than Harley could admit, leaving thousands of owners facing shredded internals and costly repairs. To fight the heat, Harley changed the sound. Regulations forced evolution, but evolution came at a cost. That deep, iconic thunder, the heartbeat of rebellion, was silenced in favor of compliance. And with that, the brand's soul began to whisper instead of roar. Number 12. The quieting of the rumble. There was a moment in Harley-Davidson history when silence felt like betrayal. For decades, that raw, chest-thumping potato rumble wasn't just sound. It was identity, rebellion, and pride. But then came the secret that stunned the faithful. Harley's roar was being slowly strangled. Starting in the late 1990s, the company began softening its signature thunder to survive tightening government noise and emission regulations. The Rebel's roar was replaced by a polite purr, and for many riders, it felt like the company had sold its soul for compliance. If your Harley sounds quieter than the ones you grew up hearing, it's not your imagination. The same government standards that saved the environment also robbed the bike of its heartbeat. Loyal riders started ripping off factory pipes, chasing the sound they once felt in their chest. Not for attention, but for identity. Because when you silence a Harley, you silence the symbol of freedom itself. When the sound died, so did something else. The Dyna, raw, exposed, and pure, was erased in the name of progress. Harley claimed it was innovation, but loyalists called it betrayal. And in that silence, an entire generation of riders lost their identity. Number 11. The Dyna demise. In 2018, Harley-Davidson killed an icon, and loyal riders still haven't forgiven them. It wasn't a rumor, it wasn't a rebrand. It was a full-blown execution of one of the most beloved families in Harley history, the Dyna. For decades, it was the outlaw's choice, the rebel's machine, the bike that carried the attitude of bar fights and back roads. Then, in a single corporate decision, Harley folded it into the Softail lineup and told the world it was progress. For riders who built their lives around that exposed shock frame and raw feel, it felt like betrayal. If you ever swung a leg over a Dyna, you know, that bike didn't just ride, it growled. It had a pulse that made you feel like part of the machine. When Harley silenced that, they silenced a chapter of rebellion itself. The Softail replacements looked cleaner, rode smoother, but lost that gritty soul. Fans didn't just lose a model, they lost their identity. To replace rebellion, Harley sold illusion. The Softail looked like the past but rode like something unsure of its own story. A fake hardtail for a company faking authenticity. And that mirage would only deepen the cracks that Dyna's death left behind. If these truths opened your eyes, don't just ride away. Subscribe now. More hidden stories, insider leaks, and Harley revelations are coming your way. Stay sharp, rider. The next one's bigger. Number 10. The Softail Mirage. Harley-Davidson pulled off one of the greatest visual illusions in motorcycle history, and most riders still don't realize it. The Softail looks like a throwback masterpiece straight out of the 1940s. Low stance, hardtail silhouette, clean lines that scream old-school rebellion. But beneath that vintage beauty hides a modern trick, one that trades authenticity for aesthetics. The shock is hidden, the comfort is partial, and the illusion, the one that made you believe you were buying both style and substance, starts to fade the moment your spine hits the first pothole. If you've ever bought a Softail thinking it was the best of both worlds, this truth might sting. Harley sold nostalgia dressed as innovation, and millions bought in. The ride feels rigid when it should float, tight when it should flex, because the design serves looks first and comfort second. The Softail isn't a bad bike, it's just a beautiful compromise wearing the mask of perfection. Number 9. The V-Rod Outcast. When Harley-Davidson teamed up with Porsche Engineering in 2001, riders thought the brand was finally breaking free from its past. A Harley with liquid cooling, high revs, and power that could challenge imports? It sounded like rebellion reborn. But instead of rewriting the rules, the company created an outcast, a machine too modern for the faithful and too heavy for the thrill seekers. The V-Rod was the motorcycle that no tribe wanted to claim, and that rejection turned one of Harley's boldest moves into one of its biggest heartbreaks. If you've ever been drawn to the V-Rod's sleek muscle lines, you felt that temptation, the promise of speed with Harley's soul. But riders who bought it quickly learned that identity can't be manufactured. The loyalists said it wasn't real Harley, and sport riders said it wasn't real performance. It sat in a strange no-man's land, admired but misunderstood. Harley's flirtation with performance didn't end there, it ended worse. In killing Buell, they didn't just scrap bikes, they buried innovation. Eric Buell's vision could have saved them, but Harley chose safety over future, and that betrayal still echoes in garages worldwide. Number 8. The Buell Betrayal. It was the partnership that could have changed everything. Harley-Davidson and a brilliant engineer named Eric Buell. Together, they had the power to rewrite the future of American performance. But instead of revolution, riders got betrayal. Behind closed doors, Harley pulled the plug on one of the most promising motorcycle brands this country had ever seen. In 2009, while the world was distracted by economic chaos, Harley quietly killed Buell. Not because it failed, but because it didn't fit the image Milwaukee wanted to sell. It was corporate self-sabotage disguised as business strategy. Buell was Harley's lost revolution, lightweight, fearless, and full of promise. It proved Harley could evolve but chose fear instead. Overnight, hope died, jobs vanished, faith cracked. Desperate to evolve, Harley tried again, this time electric. Number 7. The LiveWire Disconnect. When Harley-Davidson announced the LiveWire in 2014, They called it the future of motorcycling. But instead of rewriting the rules, it rewired the company's connection with its riders, and not in a good way. It was the boldest experiment in Harley history, an electric revolution wrapped in the name of rebellion, yet it sparked a cultural blackout. The loyalists called it a betrayal. The younger crowd, the very people Harley needed most, called it overpriced, out of touch, and out of range. The result? A disconnect so sharp it divided generations of riders overnight. The LiveWire shattered Harley's soul, silent, sleek, stripped of identity. Progress turned hollow, loyalty cracked. Spun off to hide the wound, it left a scar that burned. But this wasn't Harley's first fall from grace. Decades earlier, another corporate gamble nearly erased them. The AMF years weren't just bad, they were betrayal in factory form. And somehow, the company that survived that storm forgot the lesson it cost them everything to learn. Number 6. The AMF years. There was a time when Harley-Davidson didn't just lose control, it sold its soul. From 1970 to 1981, the company was owned by American Machine and Foundry, better known as AMF, and those 11 years nearly killed the brand. What started as a lifeline turned into a nightmare of mass production, corner cutting, and broken trust. Writers called it the dark age of Harley-Davidson, when chrome peeled, engines leaked, and quality died on the assembly line. The logo still said Harley, but the heart inside was fading fast. Those 3 letters, AMF, still haunt riders who lived the breakdowns and betrayal. Pride leaked with every gasket. But in 1981, Harley fought back, reclaiming its soul. Yet freedom had a cost. The pain simply moved from factory floors to riders' bones. Number 5. The Shovelhead struggle. It was the engine that promised power but delivered pain. The Shovelhead. Born in 1966 and retired by 1984, this motor carried an entire generation of Harley riders through some of the brand's darkest, loudest, and leakiest years. It looked mean, sounded tougher than sin, and shook like it was alive. But behind that badass image was a storm of oil leaks, cracked heads, and endless roadside wrenching. The Shovelhead didn't just demand maintenance, it demanded devotion. And for many riders, that devotion came at the cost of sanity and savings. If you faced a Shovelhead, you know, it's raw, rebellious, and earned through pain. Every leak told a story. Every mile proved devotion. Yet from that chaos, Harley rose again, forging an engine that rebuilt faith in American steel. Number 4. The Evolution Savior. Every legend gets one shot at redemption. And for Harley-Davidson, it came in the form of the Evolution engine. After years of breakdowns, oil leaks, and shattered trust during the AMF era, the company was running on fumes by the early 1980s. Then came 1984, the year Harley finally got it right. The new motor wasn't just an upgrade, it was a resurrection. The Evolution saved the brand, rebuilt its reputation, and redefined what it meant to ride American steel. But here's the twist, that salvation didn't come easy, and it came with a price that shaped everything Harley would become next. Twist the throttle on an Evo Harley and you feel it. Raw soul wrapped in reliability. It didn't leak, it redeemed. Forged in aluminum, it rebuilt trust. But Harley's next move twisted deeper, selling not engines, but false hope disguised as financing. Number 3. Dealer markups and finance fine print. This is the part Harley-Davidson doesn't want you to hear, because it's not about engines, it's about money. Every year, thousands of riders walk into dealerships thinking they're buying freedom, only to walk out chained to years of hidden costs. The sticker price is the bait, but the real trap hides in the paperwork. It's called the dealer markup and finance fine print, a quiet hustle that turns your dream ride into a long-term bill. Freight fees, setup charges, documentation costs, and mandatory add-ons appear like ghosts after you've already fallen in love with the bike. By the time you sign, the total can jump by thousands. and that's before interest. If your Harley payment keeps climbing, here's why. Emotion sells, math punishes. The chrome fades, but the debt lingers. You didn't buy freedom, you financed it. And the next truth isn't about money. It's about time and how brutally it collects. Number 2, the aging rider reality. Here's the truth that Harley-Davidson refuses to print in any brochure. Its core audience is aging out, and time doesn't care about brand loyalty. The average Harley owner today is pushing well past 50, and every passing year the company's most loyal riders are facing a reality no chrome can hide. The bikes are getting heavier, the roads feel longer, and the dream of freedom starts to demand more strength than many can give. It's not a marketing problem, it's a mortality clock ticking in every garage across America. If your Harley feels heavier or your body less forgiving, you're not alone. Riders whisper the same fear. Strength fades, bikes don't. Built for power, not mercy, they remind us of one haunting question. What happens when the world moves on, but Harley doesn't? Number 1, the identity crisis. Harley-Davidson is standing at a crossroads, and this time, the roar of the engine can't drown out the silence of uncertainty. After more than 120 years of building rebellion on 2 wheels, the brand that once defined American freedom is now struggling to define itself. It's the biggest identity crisis in Harley history, a battle between the past that built it and the future it can't escape. The old guard wants thunder, chrome, and tradition. The new generation wants tech, sustainability, and speed without the oil stains. And caught in the middle is a company that can't afford to pick a side. If you ride a Harley, this battle hits home. Every redesign mirrors who the brand thinks you are, old school outlaw or new age adventurer. Harley's struggle to be both risks tearing its soul apart, proving what happens when a legend forgets who it serves. The chrome's still shining, but now you know the cost. Freedom isn't free when the brand owns your rebellion. Awareness is the real engine of change. If these truths hit harder than the highway wind, don't ride past them. Subscribe now for more hidden stories, insider revelations, and brutal truths Harley will never admit. Ride smart, stay free.